Hello everyone. In case you don't remember, my name is Christina Pitts and I'm an occupational therapy student at the University of St. Augustine. This is video 4 out of 6 regarding developmental milestones. Before we begin, I just want it to be noted that I am a student and not a licensed practitioner. Today I will be discussing the typical developmental sequence and milestones for pre-writing strokes and handwriting for children beginning at 12 months or 1 year old and going through 6 years old. Learning to print or write is one of the most complex motor skills your child will learn. Pre-writing strokes are the lines and shapes that serve as building blocks for letter formation. The basics of drawing and using a writing tool start to develop between 1 and 2 years of age, and most children are able to print all of the letters of the alphabet by the time they are 6 years old. It is important for children to develop writing skills as early as possible. Children with writing problems are at a much higher risk for poor self-esteem, frustration in school, and academic failure. Once a child has passed 1st or 2nd grade, it is much more difficult to correct writing problems, so it is important to ask for help early if your child is struggling. Throughout this video, I will be providing some of the typical developmental milestones for printing and handwriting development, as well as some red flags that might indicate a problem. Between the ages of 12 and 18 months, or 1 and 1.5 years old, your child will typically imitate you by scribbling with a crayon or pencil, start to make marks with the crayon rather than banging it, do his own scribbling on paper or other surfaces, and hold the crayon in his or her fist. Between the ages of 18 and 24 months, or 1.5 to 2 years, a child typically will paint or color without going beyond a large piece of paper, scribble without going off the paper, start to hold the crayon with his or her fingers and thumb, but will still use his or her whole arm to color, and draw simple figures, straight or circular. Red flags for printing and handwriting development for 2 years of age, or 24 months. If you notice some of the following things about your child by the time he or she is 2 years old or 24 months, you may want to talk to your primary care provider or occupational therapist. If he or she cannot pick up a crayon and scribble on paper, or still prefers to eat or bang crayons instead of scribble with them. Between the ages of 2 and 3 years, or 24 and 36 months, a child is typically able to use paints and a brush, color in large forms, draw different strokes, dots, and circular shapes, hold the crayon with his or her fingers. At about 2 years, a child is typically able to imitate you drawing a vertical line. At about 2.5 years, they are typically able to imitate you drawing a horizontal line, and around 3 years, they are typically able to imitate you drawing a circle. Red flags for printing and handwriting development for 3 years or 36 months of age. If you notice some of the following things about your child by the time he or she is 3 years old, you may want to talk to your primary care provider or occupational therapist. He or she does not scribble or make marks on paper when given a crayon, cannot imitate you drawing a straight line, and still holds the crayon in a full fist. Between the ages of 3 and 4 years, or 36 and 48 months, a child typically begins to use a precision or tripod grasp on a pencil or crayon, meaning they will have more of a mature grasp pattern like an adult, color within the lines, copy a model of a horizontal line, a vertical line, and a circle, trace on top of a thick horizontal line without going off very much. At about 3.5 years old, a child is typically able to imitate you drawing a cross or a plus sign. And just before 4 years of age, a child typically begins to start to copy some simple horizontal and vertical letters, such as E, F, L, H, or T. Red flags for printing and handwriting development for 4 years of age, or 48 months. If you notice some of the following things about your child by the time he or she is 4 years old, you may want to talk to your primary care provider or occupational therapist. If he or she cannot draw straight lines and circles, still holds the crayon in a full fist, or does not use a variety of strokes when coloring, meaning that they still scribble. Between the ages of 4 and 5 years, a child typically draws using a dynamic tripod grasp, so they hold the crayon like a crayon or pencil. Between the ages of 4 and 5 years, a child typically draws using a dynamic tripod grasp, meaning they hold the crayon or pencil like an adult does, with the thumb and fingers near the tip of the crayon or pencil, draws a person with 3 different body parts, colors mostly within the lines in a coloring book, copies a model of a cross or a plus sign, draw a very simple picture from a model, such as a boat or a flower. At about 4 years old, they are typically able to copy a square from a model. They can draw inside the path of a very simple maze. They can trace around his or her own hand with the crayon, and you'll see this at about 4.5 years old. Connect the dots spaced about 1/2 inch apart to make simple drawings, and begin to copy their own first name. Red flags for printing and handwriting development for 5 years of age. If you notice some of the following things about your child by the time he or she is 5 years old, you may want to talk to your primary care provider or occupational therapist. He or she cannot copy a square and a cross or plus sign, still holds the crayon in a full fist or with his or her hand on top of the crayon, is still not able to make any recognizable drawings, or colors way outside the lines in a coloring book. Between the ages of 5 and 6 years, a child is typically able to draw a face with eyes, nose, and a mouth. Around age 5, they are typically able to print a few capital letters without copying. Copy his or her own first name from a model, but some letters may be large or awkward. Copy a triangle from a model and trace a diamond. Draw a person with 6 or more parts. By about 5.5 years old, they should be able to print their own name clearly without a model. Hold his or her pencil like an adult does, with thumb and fingers near the tip. Use one hand consistently as his or her dominant hand. Draw a smooth line inside a curved maze track. And just before age 6, copy numbers 1 through 5 from a model. By the age of 6 years, a child is typically able to print all letters and numbers without copying. Red flags for printing and handwriting development for 6 years of age. If you notice some of the following things about your child by the time he or she is 6 years old, Red flags for printing and handwriting development for 6 years of age. If you notice some of the following things about your child by the time he or she is 6 years old, you may want to talk to your primary care provider or occupational therapist. He or she cannot draw all the basic shapes, square, circle, cross, and triangle. Still holds the crayon in a full fist or with his or her hand on top of the crayon. Is not able to make any recognizable drawings. Colors way outside of the lines in a coloring book, is not able to draw most of the letters and numbers, or has not chosen a dominant hand for drawing and coloring tasks.